The first impact was a sound felt deep in the bone, a terrible shrieking groan of metal pushed beyond its limits. The dreadnought, unbreakable, shuddered violently, a giant in agony. On the bridge, red light bathed us, and alarms screamed a chorus of panic. I held the command rail, my knuckles white, my body rigid. I did not flinch. Flinching was a luxury we could not afford. Across the void, the Cathar cruiser fired again. A brilliant lance of emerald energy sliced through the black. It struck our port bow. There was no shimmering shield to greet it, no energy field to dissipate the blow. There was only armor. 10 solid meters of forged tungsten, ceramite, and star iron. The sound was a deep, resonant gong that vibrated through the deck and into our souls. The unbreakable groaned, a beast wounded but unbroken. It held. It always held. Hull integrity at 94%, reported Valerius, my first officer. His voice was calm, but his shoulders were tense. He was from the core worlds, a believer in shields and subtlety. He was still learning. Minor venting in Section 7. Containment is active. I gave a single nod, my eyes locked on the main viewer. The Cathar ship was a sleek, beautiful predator, all flowing lines and graceful curves. It was everything we were not. "They're hailing us, Captain," said Jax at comms. "Put 'em through," I ordered. The screen flickered to life, revealing a chitinous, multi-eyed face. "Terran vessel," it hissed through the translator. "Your defiance is illogical. Power down your engines. Prepare for boarding. You may yet serve as useful labor." I leaned forward, my voice a low growl. "You talk too much for a dead thing." The alien tilted its head. "You have no shields. Your destruction is a certainty." That's what the last ship said, and the one before that. They all believed their pretty shields made them safe. They were wrong. I made a cutting motion. Jax ended the transmission. "Helm, bring us about. Full thrust. Ram their starboard flank." Valerius spun toward me, his composure breaking. "Captain, a ramming maneuver? Their shields are still at 80%. It's suicide." I turned my cold gaze on him. "Lieutenant, how thick is our forward armor?" 22 meters, sir. "And theirs?" He hesitated. "Perhaps 3 meters. But their shields are a lie, a prayer to technology. We do not pray. We endure. Now, execute the order." The unbreakable was not graceful. It was a mountain of angry metal. It turned slowly, deliberately. The engines flared, and we surged forward. The Cathar ship grew on the viewer. They realized our intent too late. Their shields flared, a desperate, brilliant white, as we violated their space. Then they shattered. The sound was the end of a world. Silence followed the impact. A heavy, thick quiet filled only with the moan of stressed metal and the hiss of emergency welders. The main viewer showed a chaotic swirl of debris. The Cathar cruiser was gone, not disabled, erased. Our prow was a mangled wreck, but the damage went back 20 meters. The inner pressure hull, 10 meters thick itself, was intact. We had traded our outermost skin for their entire life. A fair trade. Valerius stared at the screen, his face a mask of dawning understanding. This was not a tactic. It was a creed. "Damage control reports no critical breaches," Jax said, his voice steadier. "We've lost primary forward batteries, but secondaries are online. The ship is intact, sir." "Of course it is," I said, settling back into my command chair. "It was built for this." I looked at Valerius. "You thought it was madness." "It was not a question. I thought it was a waste," he admitted. "I was thinking like them, relying on a bubble that can fail. You rely on something real. We rely on stubbornness. A shield flickers. It overloads. It fails. But armor is permanent. It is there until it is not. And ours is very, very hard to get to." I stood, addressing the bridge crew. "They call our ships ugly, archaic. Let them. They spend centuries perfecting a perfect defense. We spent that time building something that does not care about their offense." A new alert chimed. Valerius turned, his face tightening. "Captain, Long-range scanners detect a new contact, emerging from the debris field near the third planet's moon. It's massive. I already knew. They would not send another cruiser. They would send a message. Identification confirmed, Valerius whispered. It's a Cathar world shaper, a planet killer. On the viewer, the new ship appeared. It was a monstrous pyramid, a city of dark metal and weaponry. Its shields glowed with such power they were visible to the naked eye, a shimmering, layered fortress. Their shields can withstand stellar radiation, Valerius reported. We cannot ram that, Captain. It would be suicide. I felt a cold certainty settle in my gut. This was the test. This was why we were built. Helm, I said, my voice quiet and sharp. Set an intercept course. The bridge fell silent. Valerius looked at me in horror. Sir, our armor cannot withstand that firepower. We will be destroyed. I see an impenetrable defense, I said. I see a target. A large, slow, arrogant target. I keyed the ship-wide intercom. All hands, this is the captain. They have sent their best. They have sent a god to kill a mortal. They are about to learn we do not believe in gods. Battle stations. The distance to the world shaper closed with agonizing slowness. The behemoth's mass warped space around it. They did not fire. They were studying us. This anomaly that defied their logic. Probes circled our hull, scanning, searching for the trick. They would find only metal. Let them look, I told Valerius. Let them be confused. After a long silence, the world shaper decided it had learned enough. A dozen secondary batteries, each as large as a frigate, swiveled toward us. They glowed with malevolent green energy. Incoming fire! Valerius shouted. Multiple lance strikes. Impact in 5 seconds. I gave no orders. This was a test of will, not maneuver. The first volley hit. The universe turned to green and white noise. The unbreakable shuddered violently. Lights died, replaced by emergency red. The deck plates heaved. But when the blast cleared, we were still there. The viewer was scrambled, but the integrity display, while a mess of red and yellow, was not black. Report! I barked, my ears ringing. Valerius clung to his console. Direct hits! We've lost decks B through E. The outer 20 meters of the prow are vaporized, but the inner hull held. The core is secure. They had hit us with continent-shattering force, and we had taken it. We were still standing. They are recharging, Jack said, voice trembling. On the viewer, the world shaper loomed, silent and immense. I could feel their disbelief. Helm, maintain course, I ordered. Do not waver. We moved forward again, a wounded beast crawling toward a leviathan. The second volley came, targeting our engines. The ship convulsed. Poured engines offline. 60% thrust lost. We are on maneuvering power only. Is there forward momentum? Yes, sir. Inertia? Then it is enough. The world shaper was now a wall filling the view. They fired a third time, a fourth. They were no longer trying to destroy us. They were dissecting us, peeling back our layers 1 meter at a time, searching for a soft center. With every layer they burned away, they found only more armor, more stubborn, unyielding human resolve. We were a message written in steel, and we were not done being delivered. We were now so close I could see the individual docking bays on the world shaper's hull. They had stopped firing. Their confusion had turned to a cold, silent dread. We were a ghost ship, a wreck held together by will and meter-thick plating. But we were still coming. Distance 1,000 kilometers, Valerius whispered. They are bringing their main weapon to bear. The massive pyramid began its slow, ponderous turn. The planet killer's maw, a circle of captured stellar fire, aligned with our trajectory. They were done with tests. They would erase us. We will not reach them in time, Valerius said, his tone final. We do not need to, I replied. I turned to Jax. Open a channel. All frequencies. Maximum power. Channel open, sir. I stood. I wanted to be on my feet for this. Thar World Shaper. This is Captain Marcus of the Unbreakable.
You have scanned us. You have hit us with power enough to shatter a moon. And yet, here we are. I let the silence hang. You believe your shields make you safe. You are wrong. Your shields are a promise you make to yourself. Our armor is not a promise. It is a fact. It is the cold, hard reality that we can take what you give. Their weapon glowed blindingly bright. We had seconds. You look for a secret, a trick. There is none. The secret is that humanity has faced extinction before. We survive not because we are smarter, but because we are harder to kill. You built a ship to kill worlds. We built a ship to survive them. You see a weapon. We see a test. And we have passed. I cut the transmission and sat. The bridge was silent. The crew resolute. The world shaper fired. A beam of pure annihilation. There was no sound, only all-consuming light. The viewer went black. Then the light faded. We were still there. The front third of the Unbreakable was gone, sheared away in a molten line. But the rest of the ship, the 2 kilometers behind the wound, was intact. The planet killer had vaporized 25 meters of armor. It had not reached the heart. We were a headless corpse, but we were floating. On the viewer, the world shaper was motionless. I could feel their universe-shattering disbelief. They had fired their ultimate weapon, and we had survived. All hands, report, I croaked. The responses came in, shaky but steady. We were alive. I looked at Valerius. He stared at the mangled schematic, then at the pristine world shaper, then back at me. In his eyes I saw a true believer. He missed the vitals, he whispered. I nodded. They always do. They aim for the shield. We don't have one, so they guess, and they always guess wrong. We had won. We had proven that some things are too stubborn to die.
The silence was profound. The Cathar world shaper did not move. It did not fire again. It simply hung there, a monument to its own sudden fallibility. On my bridge, the crew worked miracles, rerouting power, patching systems. We were a ghost, but a persistent one. "They're hailing us, Captain," Jack said, his voice filled with awe. "The world shaper commander." On screen, the face was older, its chitinous plates etched with experience. Its multifaceted eyes held a deep, unsettling curiosity. "Terran, you should be dust." "We hear that often," I replied. "Your ship is a ruin. You have no power, no weapons. You are adrift. Yet you persist. Explain." I shrugged, a deliberately human gesture. "There is nothing to explain. Your weapon destroyed a part of my ship. It did not destroy my ship. There is a difference." The commander leaned closer. "Your lack of shielding is a fatal flaw. It is primitive." "Is it?" I asked. "Your ship has the galaxy's best shields, and yet you are the one who is confused. You are the one who is afraid. My ship is a wreck, but I am not afraid. I know what I am. Do you?" The commander was silent. "Your philosophy is inefficient. You waste mass on armor." "We do not believe in fair fights," I said. "We believe in winning. Agility is useless when surrounded. Speed is meaningless with nowhere to run. Durability is forever. You can run out of power. You can never run out of being there." I gestured to our wreck. "Look at us. We are talking. Your perfect weapon failed. Our imperfect ship succeeded. You define success as no damage. We define it as mission accomplished." The Cathar commander did something I had never seen. It blinked. "You are an anomaly, a variable we did not account for. Get used to it," I said. The transmission ended. The Cathar world shaper hung in space for a long moment. Then slowly it turned. Its engines glowed, and it began to move away. It was not fleeing. It was withdrawing, to rethink. They had encountered something their entire understanding of war could not process. Valerius exhaled sharply. "They're leaving." "They are," I said. "They learned what they came to learn. The price for attacking humanity is paid in blood and metal." I looked at my broken bridge, my exhausted crew. They had looked into the abyss, and the abyss had blinked. "The unbreakable is gone," Valerius said softly. "The unbreakable is right here," I corrected him. "In every one of you. They may have killed this hull, but they gave birth to a legend. Now let's see if we can get this wreck to call for help." The hours that followed were a new kind of battle, a fight against cold, vacuum, and slow death. Without main power, life support was on backups. The air grew thin and cold. The only light was the eerie red glow of emergency strips, casting long shadows in broken corridors. My crew, however, was indefatigable. They moved through the wreckage with a quiet determination that was more powerful than any weapon. They were not just saving a ship, they were upholding a doctrine. I walked the decks, my magnetic boots clanking. I saw engineers performing miracles with tape and grit. I saw medics tending to wounded in makeshift aid stations. I saw a young ensign directing a team to shore up a collapsing bulkhead with beams from a ruined mess hall. He saw me and snapped a salute. "Sir, just making sure she holds together." I returned it. "Carry on, ensign. She's tough, like her crew." He grinned. "They don't build 'em like this in the Corps, sir." "No, they don't." I agreed. "No, they don't." I found Chief Engineer Rostova in the wreckage of main engineering. The room was a disaster of hanging conduits and dark reactors. Her team swarmed over the auxiliary power unit. "Chief, what's the word?" She looked up, her face smeared with grime, eyes burning. "The APU is a stubborn bastard, Captain. We've got a few good fuel cells. I think we can get you power for a long-range distress call, maybe even enough to fire the thrusters and stop our drift into that planet's gravity well." She pointed to a cracked monitor. We were on a slow, fatal spiral. "How long?" "A few hours. The problem is the comms array. The main one is gone. The secondary is buried under 20 meters of collapsed deck. The signal will be weak. It might not get through. It will get through. The fleet will be listening." I returned to the bridge. Valerius had a new report. "Captain, we're picking up a signal, a Cathar probe. It's holding position a few hundred kilometers off our bow. It's just watching." I looked at the sensor feed. The spider-like device was documenting our death throes. "They want to see how we die," Valerius said, anger in his voice. "Let them watch," I replied. "Let them see that we do not panic. We do not beg. We work. That is the final layer of our armor." I turned to Jax. "When Rostova gives you power, I don't want a standard distress call. Broadcast on all frequencies. I want the Cathar to hear it too." "What's the message, sir?" I said. "Just 5 words. Tell them, the unbreakable requests a tow."
Power returned in a surge of flickering lights and a low, comforting hum. It was not the roar of the main reactor, but it was life. The emergency systems stabilized. The bridge crew sighed with relief. We were no longer a frozen tomb. "Auxiliary power online," Valerius announced, a faint smile on his lips. "Life support stable. We have basic sensors, and we have comms." I nodded to Jax. "Send the message." He typed the 5 words. "Message sent, Captain," repeating on all bands. We waited. An hour passed. There was no response from the fleet, only the silent, watching probe. Valerius's smile faded. "The signal is too weak, or they think we're dead." "They will come," I said, but doubt was a cold weight in my stomach. Then a new alert chimed, faint but there. "Captain," Valerius said, excitement rising, "I'm picking up a distortion, bearing 020. It's a warp signature, a big one. It's Terran. It must be the fleet." A new energy swept the bridge, but then a sharper, more urgent alert sounded. Valerius's face fell. Another contact, emerging from the shadow of the gas giant, a Cathar light cruiser on an intercept course. They were hiding. The hope on the bridge withered. A single light cruiser was something the unbreakable in her prime would have swatted aside. Now we were a drifting hulk with no weapons, no engines, a sitting duck. "They're not here to talk," Jack said quietly. The observing probe darted away, its mission complete. It had called in the kill team. The Cathar would not let our legend survive. "The Terran ship is 20 minutes out," Valerius reported. "The Cathar will be in range in 5. I looked at my crew.
They had been through hell. They had faced a planet killer. Now they would be picked off by a scavenger. The injustice burned. I asked options, knowing the answer. Valerius shook his head. None, sir. We can't fight. We can't run. I closed my eyes. This was the end, but it did not have to be a quiet one. Helm, I said, my voice calm. Do we have any thrust, even a little? Emergency thrusters are online, sir. We can change our attitude, not our velocity. We don't need velocity. We need to point the right way. I turned to Valerius. Calculate a trajectory. Use the thrusters to turn the ship. I want our stern facing that cruiser. Valerius looked confused. Our stern? That's our thinnest armor. 12 meters. A single shot could cut us in half. I'm not planning on getting shot in the stern, I said, a cold, desperate plan forming. I'm planning on giving them a target they can't resist. I activated the intercom. All hands, this is the captain. A Clothar cruiser is approaching to finish us. The fleet is on its way, but will not arrive in time. We are out of options, but we are not out of armor or tricks. All non-essential personnel evacuate the stern sections. Move forward. This is a repositioning. We are going to play our last card. I looked at Valerius. The moment they're clear, vent all stern atmosphere. Blow the cargo bay doors. Make it look like we're breaking apart. I want to bait them in. Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed by madness. You want to invite them in. I want them to get so close they can taste it. And then I want to introduce them to the one weapon we have left. I pointed to the schematic on his screen, to the heavily armored casing at the ship's core that survived the planet killer, the system with its own independent power, the last thing to fail, the self-destruct core. A strange quiet fell over the Unbreakable. The frantic work ceased. The only sounds were the hum of auxiliary power and the thump of boots as the crew moved forward, trusting me with their lives one last time. On the bridge, the tension was thick. Valerius coordinated the evacuation. Jax monitored the approaching cruiser. It closed fast, weapons hot. They saw a dead ship, venting atmosphere, falling apart. They saw an easy kill. Stern sections evacuated, Valerius reported. All personnel are secure forward. Vent the atmosphere. Blow the doors. On the external cameras, great plumes of frozen air and debris erupted from our stern. The massive cargo bay doors tore away and spun into the void. It looked like a death spasm. It looked perfect. The Clothar cruiser slowed. It began to circle us, a predator inspecting its dying prey. They scanned us, confirming our minimal power, our concentrated life signals, our helplessness. They're hailing us, Jax said. Ignore it, I replied. Let them wonder. The cruiser completed its circle and moved in. It approached our stern, heading for the gaping wound we had created. They were going to fly right into the opening and fire a point-blank shot into our engineering section, ensuring total destruction. They wanted to be sure. They wanted to plant their flag on our corpse. 500 meters from our stern, 400, 300. They are slowing to a stop, positioning themselves directly in the aft launch bay. On the viewer, the cruiser was a dark shape blotting out the stars. Its nose pointed into our cavernous, wrecked interior. It was the perfect shot. They are powering up forward lasers, Jax reported. They are going to fire into the bay. This was it. I leaned forward, my finger hovering over a single, isolated button on my console. I flipped open the clear plastic shield. The button was red. Activate the self-destruct sequence. Authorization Omega 009. Valerius input the code. Soft, insistent alarm sounded. Sequence activated. Core charging. Critical mass in 60 seconds. The self-destruct was a contained matter-antimatter annihilation designed to vaporize the ship, leaving no trace. It was our final defense. We would use it as a weapon. They're detecting the power surge, Jax yelled. The cruiser is pulling back, firing thrusters. It was too late. They were too close. They had flown into our trap. They had seen the open wound and assumed vulnerability. They had forgotten the first rule. There are no vulnerable spots on a human dreadnought, only layers of armor and deeper layers of deceit. 10 seconds, Valerius said. I watched the cruiser frantically trying to reverse on the screen. It was a fly in a closing fist. 5 seconds. I looked at my crew. They were braced, their faces set in grim satisfaction. We were going to die, but we were taking them with us. 2, 1. I pressed the button. There was no sound, only light. A light that started in the ship's heart and expanded, consuming everything. It ate through decks, bulkheads, the 20 meters of armor protecting the core. It erupted from our open stern in a perfect spherical wave of pure energy. The Clothar cruiser did not have time to scream. It was simply unmade. Its shields, hull, crew, atoms, erased. The wave continued, vaporizing the unbreakable stern, then midsection, then forward sections. I had one last clear thought as the light reached the bridge. We had won, not by surviving, but by choosing how we died. We had turned our destruction into the ultimate expression of our philosophy. Our dreadnoughts don't have shields. We prefer armor you can measure in meters. And sometimes, the best armor is the knowledge that you are willing to become a bomb.
Consciousness returned in flashes, pressure, roaring, then nothing. Then a slow awareness of clean white light. I was lying on something soft, a bed, the beeping of a heart monitor, a med bay. I was alive. How? I forced my eyes open. Valerius leaned over me, exhausted, bandaged, but smiling. Captain, welcome back. My voice was a croak. How? He helped me sip water. The fleet, the indomitable, they arrived just as the event occurred. They saw the explosion. They thought we were all gone, but their sensors detected one heavily armored escape pod thrown clear by the blast. The command pod, built into the bridge. It's designed to withstand a nearby supernova. He shook his head in wonder. The blast vaporized the ship, Captain, but it barely scratched the pod. We were knocked out, but the pod held. The indomitable picked us up an hour later. I lay back, reeling. The command pod. I had forgotten. The one piece of the unbreakable designed to flee. The irony was staggering. The crew, I asked, throat tight. Valerius's smile faded. We lost everyone in the stern during the initial attack, and a few more during the maneuver. But the majority, the ones who moved forward, they survived in other pods. The Indomitable is recovering them now. We saved over 80%. 80%. A miracle. We had faced a world shaper and a cleanup crew, and most of my people were going home. The door slid open. Admiral Kane walked in, his face grave, eyes proud. Captain Marcus, the doctors say you'll live. I saw the sensor logs. What you did was the most insane, brilliant thing I have ever witnessed. He walked to my bedside. You stopped a world shaper. You made it run. Then you used your own core as a mine. You've rewritten the book on engagement. The mission was to prove a point, Admiral. A point? He laughed sharply. You rewrote the book. The Cathar are in full retreat. Their morale is shattered. The story of the unbreakable is spreading. They're calling you the ghost ship. You broke their spirit. He leaned closer. You've done more to win this war than a dozen fleets. You showed them that for all their technology, they lack the one thing we have in abundance. What's that, sir? Valerius asked. Kane looked at him, then at me. Guts. He straightened. The unbreakable is gone, but her name will live forever. We're laying the keel for a new ship, the Unyielding, first of the new unbreakable class, based on your principles. Her frontal armor is 30 meters thick. She has no shield generators at all. That space is more reactors, more ammo, a larger self-destruct core. He looked at me. She's yours, Captain, if you want her. I looked at Valerius. He gave a sharp nod. I turned back to the Admiral. When do we leave? The Unyielding was not a ship. She was a statement. Walking her decks felt like being inside a mountain that had learned to fly. The crew was a mix of unbreakable veterans and new volunteers, all true believers. They looked at me not just as a captain, but as a prophet. It was a heavy burden. Valerius, now commander, was my right hand. He had embraced the doctrine completely. Our task force was small but powerful. 2 other unbreakable class dreadnoughts, the Relentless and Dauntless, and a screen of older ships to clean up our mess. We were the hammer. The plan was simple. We would jump into the Cygnus X-1 system ahead of the main fleet, a direct assault on the Cathar shipyard, a massive orbital ring protected by a planetary shield and a fleet including 2 world shapers. On paper, it was suicide, but paper did not account for the terror 3 shieldless dreadnoughts would inspire. We gathered in the briefing room. The other captains were tough, but I saw the flicker of doubt Valerius once had. The Cathar know we're coming. They will expect a trick, so we give them none. We jump in. We form a wedge. The Unyielding at the point. We fly straight at the shipyard. We do not deviate. We do not return fire on escorts. We ignore everything but the primary target. Captain Shiro of the Relentless frowned. Ignore their fleet? They will pound us to dust. Let them, I said. Our job is to break their will. Every shot they fire at us is a shot not hitting the main fleet. Every second they spend trying to stop us is a second we get closer. They will see 3 ships that do not care, and they will break. I looked at them all. This is a battle of nerves. We are going to stare them down. We are going to dare them to stop us, and we will bet everything that they blink first. The plan was audacious, insane. It was the armor doctrine applied to strategy. We were making our entire battle plan as thick and impenetrable as our hulls. The fleet is ready, Valerius said. I took a deep breath in my command chair. It felt like home. Helm, initiate the jump. Space twisted. The Unyielding plunged into the unnatural dark of warp space. We were on our way to glory, or to a death that would make the Unbreakable's end look peaceful. Reality snapped back with a jolt. The stars were wrong, crowded out by the immense presence of the Cygnus X-1 shipyard. A ring of metal and light so vast it defied comprehension. Surrounding it was the Cathar defense fleet, dozens of cruisers, hundreds of fighters, and 2 world shapers. For a moment, perfect silence. The Cathar was stunned. They saw only 3 ships, 3 dreadnoughts in a perfect wedge, prows aimed at the shipyard's heart. Then chaos. Alarms blared across the Cathar fleet. Ships scrambled. Fighter swarms surged. The world shapers began to turn. All stations report, I said, calm. We're being targeted, Valerius reported. Lead world shaper charging primary weapon, 3 minutes to fire. Helm, maintain course. Do not alter trajectory by a single degree. Aye, Captain. The first wave hit. A storm of laser and plasma. The Unyielding shuddered gently. Minimal impact, Valerius said. Outer layer abrasion only. Tell the Relentless and the Dauntless. No return fire. The Cathar intensified their attack. They could not understand our lack of response. We were a puzzle, a problem that broke the rules. The lead world shaper fired. The familiar beam of white annihilation struck us head-on. The bridge shook, lights flickered. The blast cleared. The damage schematic was mostly green. Direct hit, Valerius called. Lost outer 10 meters of prow, integrity 89%, all systems nominal. A cheer erupted. We had taken a planet-killer shot and were still flying, still on course. The psychological impact was devastating. We were now within medium range. The shipyard's defense lasers joined the fray. The Unyielding was pummeled from all sides, a constant drumbeat of destruction against our hull, but we were a drum with very thick skin. The Cathar fleet is breaking formation, Jax reported, confused. They're pulling back from us, focusing fire on the Relentless and the Dauntless. It was true. The smaller ships veered away from the Unyielding, as if we were cursed. The
The Dauntless reports heavy damage to her starboard side. She's losing atmosphere, but Captain Reynolds says she's holding the line. Tell him to stay the course. We are almost there. The shipyard filled the entire viewer. We could see docking cradles, half-finished warships, frantic activity. They never expected an enemy to get this close. Their defense was based on the idea that no one could penetrate their outer fleet. We had not penetrated it. We had ignored it. The final approach was a descent into hell. The noise was a constant symphony of destruction played on our hull. The Unyielding was being systematically dismantled, but the core remained strong. The Dauntless is falling behind, Valerius reported grim. She's lost too much thrust. The Kthar are swarming her. On the viewer, the Dauntless was surrounded, firing back furiously but slowing. Captain Reynolds' voice was calm. We can't keep up, Unyielding. We'll break formation, draw them away. Finish the job. I felt a lump in my throat. Acknowledged, Dauntless. It has been an honor. The honor was ours, Captain. Give 'em hell. The Dauntless turned, a blazing beacon of defiance, sacrificing herself. The Relentless was still with us, but badly wounded, listing, using thrusters to stay on course. But she was still flying. Distance to target, 500 kilometers. The shipyard shields are at full power. Our torpedoes will not penetrate. We are not going to shoot the shields. We are going to deliver the torpedoes personally. Helm, maximum ramming speed. The helmsman nodded. Aye, sir. Maximum thrust. The engines roared. We were a bullet aimed at the Kthar heart. The shipyard grew until it was the universe. We could see terrified workers, the glowing shield generators. They were so sure of their invincibility. Brace for impact! I yelled. The Unyielding hit the shield. The sound was reality breaking. The shield held for a fraction of a second, bending inward under our mass. Then it shattered. The energy release was catastrophic. It vaporized our prow. It tore the Relentless apart. But the Unyielding, what was left, punched through. We were inside. We were a multi-billion-ton projectile hurtling through the Kthar's greatest facility. We smashed through docks, silos, command centers. We were an earthquake. Fire all forward torpedoes! I screamed. The remains of our bays launched. Dozens of warheads flew into the shipyard's primary reactor. They impacted. A white-hot sun bloomed at the ring's center. The structure began to break apart, buckling and twisting. The Unyielding was caught in the blast, thrown end over end. The bridge was chaos. I was thrown from my chair, my head hitting the console. The last thing I saw was the Kthar shipyard tearing itself to pieces. We had done it. We had broken the unbreakable, with nothing but armor and will. I awoke in darkness. The only light came from sparks of shuttered consoles. The only sound was the moaning of the ship's dying frame. Gravity was gone. I floated free. Report, I croaked. Static. Then a weak response. Captain, Valerius, the bridge is gone. Most of the crew, gone. His voice was thick with pain. Where are you? Pinned near science. Leg broken. No sensors. Status. I anchored myself looking at the tomb of my bridge. Bodies floated in 0G. The shipyard is destroyed. Mission success. Valerius was silent. The Unyielding is finished. We're dead again. I found a flickering console, pulled up an external feed. The sight stole my breath. Cygnus X1 was an expanding cloud of gas and debris. The world shapers were gone. The remaining Kthar fleet was in disarray, some drifting, some fleeing. They were broken. Then new warp signatures appeared. Dozens, hundreds. The Terran main fleet poured into the system, fresh and powerful. They encountered no resistance. The Kthar, their command shattered, their symbol of power destroyed, offered no fight. The invasion force secured the system without a shot. We had not just destroyed a shipyard, we had ended the war. A shuttle with Admiral Kane's insignia weaved through the debris towards us. I met them at a broken airlock, supporting Valerius. Kane stepped through, followed by medics. He looked at the shattered corridor, at us. The shipyard is gone, he said quiet.
The Cathar hegemony has surrendered, unconditionally. The war is over. No one cheered. We were too broken. How? Kane asked, his eyes searching mine. The reports. It was impossible. I looked at the mangled hull around me. We believed, Admiral. We believed in the armor, and we were willing to pay the price. Kane nodded slowly. He looked at Valerius's leg, the blood on my uniform, the haunted looks. The price was high, the unbreakable, the unyielding, the dauntless, thousands of crew. The price for losing would have been higher. We bought peace, Admiral, not with a treaty, but with a lesson written in fire and steel. The medics moved in. Kane put a hand on my shoulder. Come on, Captain, let's go home. Your war is over. I took one last look at my ship. She had been born from the Unbreakable's ashes and died in a fire that saved humanity. She was the final argument in a conversation that started with a simple idea. Our dreadnoughts don't have shields. We prefer armor you can measure in meters. And sometimes the most important thing you armor is the future itself. They called it the Armor Doctrine. It became the foundation of the Terran Alliance's military strategy. Shipyards retooled. Shield tech was relegated to civilians. The great yards now produced only one thing: dreadnoughts, mountains of metal, each thicker and tougher than the last. They were not pretty, but the galaxy had learned to fear them. I never took another command. How could I? The unbreakable and unyielding were not just ships. They were legends. I was given a teaching post at the Fleet Academy on Luna. My classroom was always full. Young cadets listened as I told the stories. I told them about the sound of breaking shields, the silence after the World Shapers hit, the dauntless turning to face the enemy, the unyielding's final charge. I did not glorify it. I told them the cost. I showed them the names on the memorial wall. I taught them that the armor was not just metal, it was the crew inside, the will to endure, the refusal to surrender. Valerius recovered. He lost the leg, but gained purpose. He became head of Dreadnought Design, overseeing the next generation. He always consulted me. He was building ships even more uncompromising, more dedicated to our brutal philosophy. One day he came to my office on Luna. He was older, hair gray, eyes still fierce. He placed a data slate on my desk. The new one, the enduring, flagship of the new fleet. I thought you should see her before commissioning. I looked at the schematics. A marvel. 40 meters of prow armor. No weak points. No compromises. The ultimate expression of our belief. I said, "She's beautiful." Valerius smiled. "She is. And she needs a captain. The Admiralty wants you. They say the fleet needs its profit." I shook my head. "I'm an old man. My war is over. Let the young ones write their own stories." He nodded, understanding. "What will you do then?" I looked out at Earth, peaceful and serene. The war was a memory, but its lessons remained. "I will teach," I said. "I will make sure they never forget. Peace is not given, it is built. You build it with the same materials as a dreadnought, with strength, with resolve, with the unshakable belief that you have a right to exist." I turned back to him. The armor was never about war. It was always about peace, creating a wall so strong no one would dare knock it down. We are not warlike, we are stubborn, and our stubbornness is the strongest armor of all. Valerius left. I looked again at the Enduring, a magnificent beast, a symbol of human will. I knew she would never fight a battle like mine. Her existence was a deterrent, a message to the universe. We are here, we are human, and we are not moving. The galaxy had tried to break us. It had thrown its best at us. We responded not with better tech, but with a simpler truth. Some things are just too tough to break. Our ships, our spirit, our will. I leaned back, closed my eyes. I could still hear it, the sound of metal screaming, shields breaking, silence. It was the sound of victory. It was the sound
of armor.
The legacy of the unbreakable was not just in the ships that followed, it was in the spirit. A new generation grew up knowing that safety was not a bubble, it was a wall. It was something you built yourself, with sweat and steel and sheer refusal to yield. I walked through the shipyards of Mars, the air thick with the smell of ozone and welding. The sounds of construction were a symphony of progress. They were building another enduring class. Cadets on field trips would point, their voices filled not with fear, but with pride. They saw not a weapon of war, but a guarantee of peace. Valerius often joined me on these walks, his mechanical leg clicking a steady rhythm. "They don't know," he said one day, watching the young cadets. "They don't know what it cost. They don't need to know the full price. They only need to understand the principle. They need to know that the wall must be maintained, that vigilance is the price of the silence we now enjoy." The Cathar hegemony was a shadow of its former self. They had become a trading partner, a cautious neighbor. Their diplomats never failed to mention the Terran resilience in their speeches. It was a polite term for what we had done to their fleet. The lesson had been learned. I returned to Luna, to my classroom. A cadet asked me, "Captain, was it worth it? All the lives lost on the unbreakable and the unyielding?" The room went quiet. I looked at the young faces, so full of potential. "That is the wrong question," I said gently. "The question is not whether it was worth it. The question is, what will you build with the peace they bought?" They did not die for a flag or a territory. They died for an idea. The idea that our children could look at the stars and see a future, not a threat. That is what the armor protects. Not a ship, not a nation, a possibility. I dismissed the class. Later, I stood at the great viewport of the academy, looking at the starship traffic around Earth, freighters, passenger liners, science vessels, a bustling, peaceful civilization, all of it protected by a simple, brutal idea. An idea first tested in fire and metal, now woven into the fabric of our society. We are not the most advanced species. We are not the most numerous, but we are perhaps the most determined. And in a universe of unknowns, that determination is the only shield we will ever need. The final report on my desk was the decommissioning order for the last shield-equipped vessel in the Terran fleet, an old scout ship being retired. The era of shields was over. The age of armor had begun, and it would last as long as there were humans who refused to be moved. I signed the order with a steady hand. The work was done.